I was really interested in the single-handed aspect, in that the boat was a nice stiff boat and comfortable,
Okay.
and this seemed to be the boat.
Welcome aboard. I'm Captain Wayne Canning, and I'll be your host today for this Project Boat Zen video. Let's face it, there's just some boats that tug at a sailor's heartstrings the first time they see them. Call it love at first sight if you like. Some boats just grab your attention and have that special look. For me, the Cape Dory Typhoon has always been one of these boats. The Typhoon's sweeping sheer and long overhangs are reminiscent of a time when designers understood that form and function were closely related. The Cape Dory Typhoon was designed by Carl Ahlberg, a Swedish-born designer built by Cape Dory Yachts, and was one of the first boats they ever produced. Between the years of 1967 and 1986, over 2,000 of these lovely little boats were produced. The Typhoon was one of Cape Dory's most popular models, and they built more of this particular boat than any other model they manufactured. The Cape Dory Typhoon came in two basic models. The first and most popular was the Weekender. The Weekender had a small cabin with two quarter berths underneath the cockpit seats. It also had room for a small porta-potty type head. The Day Sailor, on the other hand, still has a small cuddy cabin, but it's really more for storage, and maybe a small porta-potty can be put in there, but you don't really have much in the way of sleeping quarters. Of course, the Cape Dory Typhoon, being an 18-foot boat, it's not going to have a whole lot of sleeping room, but it might be good for a little weekend trip. And I have talked to some owners who have set up a boom tent so that they can sleep both inside and outside of the boat. Carl Ahlberg's whole thinking in designing the Typhoon was to design a small boat that would be comfortable to sail in varying conditions. Carl is quoted as having said, "In my designs, I go for a boat that you can sail upright and comfortably without scaring the life out of your family and friends." And this is certainly true of the Cape Dory Typhoon. Unlike many day sailors of this size, the helmsman does not have to keep a death grip on the main sheet in fear that the boat will tip over. The Typhoon is very stable. These are full-keel boats with 900 pounds of ballast. You're not going to win too many races with the Typhoon, but she will be a comfortable and agile boat to sail, and will sail under many conditions that would leave other boats of this size and class at the dock. At 18 feet 6 inches, with a displacement of 2,000 pounds, the Typhoons were heavily built with hand-laid fiberglass and a fiberglass hull deck joint. Although they did use balsa coring in the decks, the hulls are solid, and the ballast is internal to the hull rather than a bolt-on keel. The Typhoon is a relatively easy sailing boat and will be responsive to the helmsman's touch. She doesn't point real well at about 50 degrees, but still not too bad of a boat for this class. And you will need a little way going as you round up to tack. Being a full keel boat, she will often sail herself under the right conditions. Many owners have outfitted her with a small roller furling jib to make sailing easier. I was lucky enough to be able to review John Bremer's Typhoon Misty. John purchased his boat up on the Great Lakes and spent a winter restoring her back to her original beauty.
I saw it in Chesapeake Bay, and I put a little note on it and asked the guy if he wanted to sell it, and lo and behold, I found one up in Traverse City, Michigan, and it was this boat.
Okay. Had you been looking for the Typhoon specifically?
No, not really. I just ran into it, and I was interested in a single-handed boat for an older guy.
The older guy being yourself.
Being myself, yeah, exactly. And I was really interested in the single-handed aspect, in that the boat was a nice stiff boat.
What condition was this boat in when you got it?
It was, it wasn't bad. All the teak was gray.
Okay.
The decks were that dirty blue. All his boats had that light blue deck, and so I all gripped that.
Did you do the work yourself, or did you hire?
Okay. Yeah, I did. I just extended the track. I just made it so it was much more single-handable,
Okay.
if that's a word.
Yeah, well, close enough.
Yeah, right. And I put a lot of I put new sails on it. I put a new furler for the jib.
Right, I noticed the furler,
Yeah.
and that does seem to make sense.
Yeah.
It's a little tough to get on the forward.
Oh, the trick is you don't want to leave the cockpit.
Right, right,
And when it's really blowing hard, I do tether myself in.
right. Okay.
And I usually wear some kind of,
So you almost
like-
always go out by yourself? Or?
I actually mostly do go out by myself. My
Okay.
wife goes occasionally, but I really enjoy sailing by myself. It's
Just a quiet.
Yes,
you know,
yeah.
Just get away
It's
from
nice.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I spent my whole
understand.
life around a bunch of people, so it was
Right.
It's nice.
Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong
Yeah,
with
right,
people,
right,
but yeah,
exactly,
it doesn't
yeah.
hurt to escape it.
exact same. I'm not antisocial by any means.
No, no.
But it's just really nice
yeah.
to just, after working for 40 years, to go out by yourself and just
Right. Yeah.
spend the day or afternoon or whatever. And
So how often do you try to get out?
I go out a lot. I'm down here. I probably go out at least 3 times a week, maybe
Okay.
more, maybe 4.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So in general, how does the boat sail?
If you set the boat up right, in other words, if you get the right sail combination, I reef quite a bit.
Okay.
I even bought a orange storm jib, and if you get the boat set up right, it can handle most anything that's in Charlotte Harbor,
Okay.
except, like I said, at the beginning of last week when it was blowing 40
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah.
But I've been
Yeah,
out in
yeah.
30, and you know what? It acts kind of like it acts like a little cork.
Okay.
The big seas. It just kind of
Doesn't.
has a real
doesn't
nice
feel
motion.
Overpowered. Or
No,
anything
it's
like that?
like I said, if you get it set up right, it doesn't
Right,
feel overpowered.
Right.
And it's a full batten main, so even if you get some gusts and things that are maybe temporary,
Mm-hmm.
that full batten main, you
Just
can
luff
almost eliminate. You just ease the main out and get a nice bubble in it, and you can almost eliminate the main.
Okay.
So it's really nice,
Yeah.
really nice.
Forgiving boat.
Yeah, very forgiving boat.
And on the restoration part of it, how long did you spend working on
I
it?
spent a winter and a summer.
Okay.
So, it wasn't a big rest. As a matter of fact, this has the original gel coat on.
Okay, the hull is still the original, so the deck's
si-
painted, but the hull is still...
The
okay.
hull is still, people don't believe me, but well, they do, but they're surprised. The boat
Right.
was treated fairly well. I mean, it wasn't abused too badly.
Okay.
But I spent the winter working on all the wood, all the deck. Down below was moldy, and I had to get rid of all the mold. And,
Right.
Then in the summer, I spent on mostly on the standing rigging, figuring the boat out,
Right.
all that stuff, and then I brought it down here.
Okay. So you didn't run into any, major problems like with deck coring or anything like
No,
that?
you'll see a support in there under the
Yeah, I
under the
noticed
mast
that.
step.
Yeah.
And I had a Kel 25, and that was always their bugaboo.
Kind of. Yeah, it's Achilles' heel on a lot of the glass boats.
Yeah, and
particularly the
as
price
far as I
point.
can tell, it doesn't need it. I've never seen it move. That doesn't mean it doesn't. But I just put it in there because I thought it was a good idea.
Little peace of mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I know if it's going to go bad,
Right.
all you need is a little hole in there to get a little water in there,
Right, right.
and then the next thing you know, you got a major problem.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's and that is a problem with a lot of the older boats.
Yeah.
And in particular is the deck core.
Yeah, right, right. So the deck is held up. There's some. Oh, you'll see some. What do you know better than I? The stress. Not
Right.
stress,
Yeah. I
but,
think I noticed
what
a
I
couple
mean.
little. The hairline.
Yeah,
cracks,
the hairline
yeah.
cracks here and there,
Yeah.
and
If you're thinking of purchasing one of these pocket yachts, there are a few things you want to keep an eye out for. You want to check the decks carefully for any core rot or moisture in the core, as this can be a difficult problem to correct. Sounding the decks with a surveyor's hammer and moisture meter will help you quickly spot any problem areas. You're also going to want to check carefully around the mast step and check for any sagging in the coach roof. Most Typhoons were built without any support underneath the deck. Many have survived without any problems, while others have experienced some sagging in this area. Check carefully for stress cracking on the deck. Many boats that have been left out in the weather for many years are going to have problems with stress cracking, and there's not a lot you can do about it. You may end up having to repaint the decks because the gel coat has just not survived the years. You also want to carefully inspect the rudder. Check for any wear in the fittings on the rudder, particularly at the base where it attaches to the keel. You also want to inspect the rudder itself. Tap it out carefully and check for any swelling or hollow spots. Checking the chain plates will also be important. You want to make sure they haven't come loose or pulled on the deck end. These boats were well overbuilt, so you really shouldn't find any major structural problems. Most of your issues are going to involve rigging and cosmetics. So if you're looking for a small boat that is not only pleasing to the eye, but also sails well, and will allow you to take your family out without scaring them to death heeling over, the Typhoon may just be your boat.
But this boat's I just love the boat. It's just great.
Cool.